South Carolina losing in the Final Four by 1 point to Stanford. And talk about talent. Here comes the freshman of the year from the ACC, Kamila Cardoso, the sophomore from Brazil, one of the 11 transfers from Syracuse, number 10. And my goodness, you just go, you take out somebody like Boston and bring in her. It almost doesn't seem fair. Dakota still looking for its first points.
You know, I asked Coach P, we got to yesterday, like, are you worried about shooting so many threes, giving South Carolina the opportunity to get out and run? She said, no, we're going to beat us. We have to take those shots. And so far, transition defense has not hurt the Coyotes. It's their inability to convert on the offensive end.
They missed all 6 of their shots. Don Plitzowite now in her 6th year, 3-time Summit League Coach of the Year, has taken her team to 3 straight NCAA tournaments. And between South Dakota and South Dakota State, the Summit has become really a 2-bid conference. Getting at-larges when the other one doesn't win the tournament because they are both so good. The huge rivalry between the Jackrabbits and the Yotes, the Coyotes. We're in Sioux Falls, which is almost dead in the middle between Brookings, which is north of here where South Dakota State plays, and Vermillion, which is about 50 miles south of us where South Dakota is. I-29, you take that all the way up.
You've enjoyed your time in South Dakota.
That's my first trip. I have learned what wind chill means since we came here.
I have learned 80 miles an hour speed limit.
Yeah, legal
speed limits. Which, when I saw people get tickets, I'm like, how fast are you going to get a ticket here?
Triple digits. Raven Johnson, number 25 in for South Carolina. Going to see a lot of subs come in for the Gamecocks. Me here, the Canadian gets fouled. I'm here as somebody who has improved on her game. Let's take a timeout. 6-love, South Carolina. Let's take you back to the Final Four. Stanford with a 1-point lead over South Carolina. They force the turnover. Bree Beal with the first opportunity for the win. And now Aaliyah Boston just hit the back rim. Stanford survives where they went on to beat Arizona by 2 in the championship in a heartbreaking moment. Boy, that's tough to watch.
Well, I'll say this much. As a coach, all you ask is your player get an attempt. And South Carolina had 2 great looks, just couldn't get to go down. But Pam, I'm a big believer. Sometimes your team just needs something to stick in their craw, something that motivates them when times are hard, when you can just dig down deeper. And I'll say this again, this South Carolina team, game 2, or I should say game 1 compared to game 1 a year ago defensively, night and day difference. Night and day difference. And so that's where, you know, again, to all the future opponents, and there's some good ones on this schedule, South Carolina, you've got to have your P's and Q's tight when you're going to play the Gamecocks.
Earlier tonight, we had Louisville losing to Arizona in overtime. Now, this is the second part of our doubleheader. Louisville lost to Stanford in the Elite 8. South Carolina in the Final Four, and then the championship game, Arizona lost to them. Shervin with her first shot with a miss. How about Stanford winning a national championship by a grand total of 3 points last year? Gosh, what a tournament it was. Ami here with the miss. Cardoso there to follow up and gets fouled. So South Carolina, the #1 team in the country, and Charlie Cream, never too soon for bracketology. South Carolina projected as a 1 pick. These are the 4 teams that are here. Louisville is a 2, Arizona is a 5. I think that's going to change. And yes, he's got the Coyotes in again.
I would have the Coyotes in.
Yep.
I just can't say enough about these 4 teams coming here and competing. And we asked Don Staley, because most teams will not play South Dakota. Most Power 5s won't. And Don said, hey, it's good competition for us. It's a great environment. They enjoyed the experience a year ago in the middle of a pandemic. And so I'm just excited that we get we have 2 quality opponents going at it here this evening.
Yes, there were no fans last year. Coach Staley gave the folks credit here for keeping things safe. Oh my, an injury. That is Raven Johnson. clutching her left leg. Coach Staley comes out to take a look at the freshman, a consensus All-American, was a National High School Player of the Year according to Naismith and the WBCA. Part of this #1 recruiting class. South Carolina out to this 10-0 lead, but obviously the concern for Raven Johnson.
Honestly, I was blocked by Destiny Henderson from seeing exactly how she went down. Just like the knee buckled hard.
Well, it's tough to tell from that angle. And there's another one that's number 25 on the right. Just kind of, she tripped. Oh, there you go. And there you see the twist as she went down. Dawn Staley and the athletic trainer there along with Jolette Law, and as Johnson is helped off the floor. We will take a break and come right back to Sioux Falls. Welcome back to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Raven Johnson helped off the floor. There's Dawn Staley and Jolette Law, terrific assistant, screen right. And Bree Beal has checked in for Johnson. We'll get you an update if we can. She was helped off to the side of the floor. Going on to her knee. We talk about how important assistants are. Jolette Law on her 5th season. Lisa Boyer, Fred Schmiel also on that staff for South Carolina.
But Pam, again, another staff with longevity. It just makes the biggest difference in the world, especially during a summer where Dawn is the Olympic coach.
Right. And we here takes steps. Crowd here really into it. Their team is down 10-0. Great fans in South Dakota. This is not on campus again. It's about 50 miles from campus. Technically a neutral site, but they love their basketball.
Honestly, with the style of play of the Coyotes, how successful they've been, fans are crazy not to support this team.
Whistle and a foul drawn by Corngable. This college basketball doubleheader coming for you on Sunday afternoon. We just talked about Stanford. There's your defending champs taking on Texas Sunday at 3 Eastern on ESPN. Then follow that up with Ryan Howard and Kentucky playing Indiana. Good stuff, both games on ESPN and the ESPN app. We talked about it. Goodness, these great early season matchups. It's not even November 15th yet, right? Today's 12th. Look at these games.
Well, today's like Christmas.
Yeah.
As far as quality opponents going at it. But I give Vic Schaefer credit. He's going to take a young team up to play the trees, and I mean that literally as well.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about another team in Stanford that really is not losing much. Has most of the majority of their team coming back.
Did lose Keanu Williams, who was such an important component. Charlie Collier was the #1 overall pick that Texas lost, but Vic with a great recruiting class coming in. Corngable, I tell you what, she is a feisty little player from Rochester, Minnesota.
Well, when you're not as fast, you've got to use change of pace, and that is one thing the perimeter players of the Coyotes do extremely well, as we just saw in that play.
Henderson trying to get something going, and a foul called on her drive. Corngable last year in the loss to South Carolina. Let's take a look again.
What starts with players getting on the floor, and then you just have Corngable, just spin move, change of pace, change of direction, and knows what to do when she gets that deep in the paint.
Last year against South Carolina, 16.6 rebounds and 7 assists for Liv. Graduate in December. So going to physical therapy, stay in athletics in some way. Yeah, we were at practice yesterday, and she's a feisty player.
I just have to say, you're not this successful unless you're tough and feisty.
Even with her own teammates in practice, she was being a little chippy in a good way. And she has brought that this afternoon.
Winners create winners. And that's what I feel like with this veteran team. They're not only out here to win this year, but they're out here to continue the legacy of the Coyotes and the success that they've had.
Chloe Lamb, another part of the big three, along with Shervin and Korngable, with Richard Sr. from Oneida, South Dakota. Was the MVP of the Summit Tournament last year. Coyotes have won back-to-back Summit Tournaments. Just 2 years ago, there was no NCAA tournament, so did not technically get into the tournament, but they would have as the tournament champs. Nice dish. Saxton delivers.
Great unselfish play by Russell for the dump off for the 2 by Saxton. Not afraid to shoot. Good box out. Cardoso getting it up to Henderson. And you saw only one Coyote go to the glass there. That's how much respect they have for South Carolina's transition game. But Saxton sprints the floor to get that easy 2.
Another assist for Henderson, and that's something that Coach Plitzowite talked about. Send as many people back to try to stop South Carolina. Korngable isn't afraid of Cardoso. How about that?
Well, again, it's knowing with the head fake, South Carolina's going to go for those blocks. They are leading traditionally one of the top shot blocking teams in the country. So she's patient, she's deliberate, and she gets the shot to go.
South Carolina was second in the country in block shots, and that was without Cardoso on the roster.
Well, now Russell puts it on the floor. Nice little drop pass down to Saxton for the 2. And then we had to say it again. Korngable, without even seeing the basket, I don't think, because of the shadow of Cardoso, drops it in.
Kamila led the ACC in blocks last year, just under 3 per game when she was with Syracuse, was the freshman of the year, gets another rebound. 6'7", and man, she looks like she might be taller.
I mean, I give Korngable credit because she even challenged her.
The band trying to make it sound like the shot clock was winding down when it wasn't.
Everybody's a part of the team.
Korngable brings it up, gets some words from Coach Plitzowite, who was national championship as a head coach at Grand Valley in Michigan.
I mean, everywhere she's gone, she's won.
She's won, yeah. Including Vermillion, South Dakota. Waning seconds of the first quarter and a whistle. Cardoso has picked up a couple of fouls here in the first quarter. That means Aaliyah Boston's going to come in.
Ooh.
A little love for our former comrade at ESPN, getting back into coaching.
The game needs Gail Guest, of course. Yep. She's that good.
One of Coach Elzie's assistants this year. Nice path to the bucket by Chloe Lamb.
And I love that because in the first 5 minutes of this half, South Carolina has already 5 blocks. And yet Lamb wasn't deterred. She still took it in strong.
So 5 blocks in this quarter for South Carolina as a team.
5 blocks in 5 minutes. Pam, I didn't have 5 blocks my entire career.
That is a 40-block pace. That would be a record or something. Lamb, this time over Beal!
Pam, we watched practice yesterday. These shots aren't happenstance. It's not accidental. The fundamentals that are taught and expected at South Dakota is remarkable. They got 12 different ways to finish a layup.
Yeah, it was impressive to watch them, wasn't it? Cardoso just drew 3 defenders, so Henderson says I'll throw up the 3 myself. Point guard from Fort Myers, known as Denny, to her teammates. Corn Gable looking for her first points of the quarter after hitting 18 in the first half. It's been the Lamb show here in the third quarter. Shervin, nice, and then follows with the left hand.
This team knows angles so well. They know how to use their body to get shots off against the much taller South Carolina. But you know what? It doesn't matter when Henny can knock it down from deep.
Yeah, that's the second straight time that the triple came over to Cardoso, and then they paid after Henderson hit from the outside. Shervin from three, just a little bit short. But the ball is collected by Larkins, the freshman.
Larkins going to be special. Fearless, fundamental, can score.
Shervin, good work, but Henderson was able to take it away from Lamb. Henderson, a little hesitation, and now gathers. The other Destiny, Littleton. Sofsky got over there. Dugovsky, excuse me, for the defensive pressure. Lamb, or excuse me, Corn Gable, that was an NBA three. Might be a little winded as we finally get a whistle, and Destiny Henderson putting on a show.
Well, she's used to going north to south and scoring in transition. Tonight she's like, hey, I'm on fire. I'm just going to spot it from three. 4 of 5 from deep on the game.
Dawn Staley won a national championship in 2017. Got a piece of a net from Carolyn Peck when she won, and she's paying it forward.
I love this. I love them. This is what I've been waiting for. Oh, this is so awesome. Dawn, I love you. You're the best. You're a great friend, and thank you. This is something I'm going to cherish. And hopefully I'll be doing this one day.
Yep, Dawn Staley cutting up portions of the net from when they won the national championship in 2017 and sending out pieces to the head coaches in the United States and college programs, women of color, including Adia Barnes, who almost won a national championship last year. And that is the slogan this year, net worth, trying to cut down the nets again. And again, starting with our colleague Carolyn Peck, who gave the piece of the net when Purdue won it all in 1999. And Dawn carried that around with her, and it's just terrific that she is spreading that to the other coaches out there.
Absolutely. Our game only gets better when coaches support coaches, and hats off to Dawn Staley, because it wasn't enough about her winning. It was about how do I help fellow coaches do the same thing. That's what she wants to see. Maybe not against her, but she wants to see fellow female coaches win a national championship. And honestly, it was Monday morning where I saw a clip of Johnny Harris from Auburn. They posted a picture. So I thought, honestly, initially I thought it was just the SEC women of color coaches. And then throughout the next 3 days, I saw everyone. And it's a true testament to Dawn's investment in the game of women's basketball.
Yeah, Dawn says she sent out, I believe she's at 74 right now. And then she said she got a message from a junior college coach. And she's like, okay, I'll send out some more. Just a great gesture, and it's, you gotta love it. Don't, once you get there, don't pull the ladder up after you. Help others up, and Dawn Staley embodies that.
Well, Pat Summitt did it for years.
Yep.
And we know the impact Pat had on Dawn. And so I love that Dawn's now carrying that kind of legacy forward.
Boston able to get the bucket and draw the foul. Dawn Staley recently signed a 7-year extension to stay at South Carolina, where she's going to make about $22.5 million over the next 7 years. Well-deserved, right up there with Gino as far as earning it. And what she's done at South Carolina is unbelievable, because before she was there, to say that that program was dormant might be an overstatement. It's amazing what she has done. They have almost 10,000 season ticket holders.
Well, that's the piece. It's an investment. Like, college athletics, unfortunately, it's a business. And so hats off to the administration, because you're going to get this return on investment because of the fans, because of the season tickets. That arena is packed every time they play. And so you want to keep Dawn Staley as your head coach. You don't want her to even think about leaving.
Yeah, boy, and they love her down there. If you just saw that as Aaliyah Boston came over and induced the tie-up, and Dawn came up and came over and gave her talented junior, a little 5, little slap on the palm for that great work.
Well, she rewards effort. And that's the thing about Aaliyah Boston. Didn't score a lot against NC State, but still was a defensive presence. And speaking of defensive presence, drawing the charge.
That's Chloe Lamb, run into by Russell.
Well, the key for the Coyotes was to keep South Carolina out of the lane off dribble penetration. There, Chloe Lamb moves her feet and draws the charge from Russell.
Point advantage for South Carolina, trying to go to 2-0 on the season. Lamb quickly out of the double team, but boy, Shervin and Boston and Cardoso playing together right now.
Just not fair. No. One thing I see for South Dakota is because of the speed, the closeout speed of South Carolina, South Dakota has to be able to see the next pass before the ball hits their hands. And right now, they're a half-second slow, so nothing is opening up for them.
Shervin again, trying to force things. It's 2 of the best shot blockers in the country, not only on the same team, but playing on the floor at the same time. Cardoso over to Boston.
Beautiful post-to-post action.
Cardoso coming over from Syracuse, where she was the ACC Freshman of the Year last year. Chloe Lamb doing most of the offensive work in the third quarter for the Coyotes. 5 seconds difference between the two clocks. Cardoso guarded by Shervin, who sticking with the 2 fouls that she picked up in the first quarter. That could be number 3.
We've talked about the transition game of South Carolina, but when Cardoso catches the ball low, she almost pulls a double team, which allows Boston to rim run on the weak side. Easy, beautiful layup.
That was Shervin's 3rd foul. She is staying out there with 17 seconds left to go in the quarter. As Cardoso heads to the free throw line, sophomore from Brazil. And she was recruited by Dawn Staley. Dawn said that when Kamila came to campus on her visit, it was around Halloween time, and they did a little pumpkin carving with Kamila. Not enough to get her to go to Columbia. Deferred that for a year, went to Syracuse, and now is playing with the Gamecocks, who were one of her finalists. Lamb has it ring out. Boston getting it over to Cook. South Carolina led by 15 at the half, and they have extended that out, leading 55-34 after 3 quarters of play in Sioux Falls. Welcome back. We are in Sioux Falls, about 50 miles north of the campus of South Dakota in Vermillion. And boy, this South Dakota team, back-to-back titles in the Summit League tournament. You see they've won 4 of the last 7 regular seasons, just 4 losses in the last 4 years in their league. 3 of them to their arch rivals, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. And it's Dawn Plitz-White. Come on now, what a job she has done.
Anywhere Dawn Plitz-White has been, she has won. And again, after watching practice, it's not accidental. Great teacher of the game. She breaks the game down, fundamentally sound, and her players love her. I had the opportunity to sit down with Morgan Hansen yesterday. I said, how would you describe your coach? Loving, smart, would run through a wall for her. I mean, she just kept going on until she had to go get in a huddle. But I think we might still be there because she only had great things to say about her head coach.
And there is Morgan Hansen out with a stress fracture, but you had a great conversation with her during practice.
Well, for me, I always like to know what the game plan is, and I missed some of it. And Morgan Hansen, for a young lady who was injured, was beyond impressed because she knew every detail of the scout. and taught me some things. So, hey, future ADs out there, keep your eye on Morgan Hansen. Definitely a coach you want to hire.
Yeah, pardon me, redshirt freshman from right here in Sioux Falls, who is out with a stress fracture, but very engaged and told you she'd like to be a coach herself someday. And you think she's already passed a test?
Well, I think, first of all, for a young post player to know guard assignments as well as her own assignments, I was impressed with. But for an injured player, because a lot of times they check out, they're on the sideline rehabbing, she was dialed in.
Yep. So that'll be a plus. They hope to get her back certainly when the conference season starts. Mihir has it rim out. South Dakota, third straight year that they have been picked to win the Summit League. Lamb, wide right, easy rebound for Cardoso. Oh, there's another play for Cardoso, who got it on the second chance.
And didn't have to jump. Like, just tipped it to herself.
I want to be 6'7" and athletic, huh?
I just want to be athletic, man.
Yeah, you take that. Shervin just a little bit too strong, and she's guarded out on the perimeter by Kamila. Mihir, nope, and again she doesn't have to jump.
But also smart. For just a sophomore, doesn't try to do too much, knows that she's taller, she tips it to herself so she can get it without going over the back.
So it's 59-34. South Carolina looking like the #1 team in the country, which they are. Welcome back to the Mammoth Sports Construction Invitational in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. #1 South Carolina, they're going to play some people, aren't they? They are the #1 team in the country, and yes, they have scheduled 2, 3, 4, and 5. They've already beaten NC State, Maryland, and Stanford coming up, and then the big match against UConn in January.
Yeah, I love the philosophy. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And here's the bottom line. If I'm a head coach, I don't want to learn things about my team during the NCAA tournament. I want to know those things early, and so the only way to do that is to challenge yourself with tough scheduling, and Dawn does that year in and year out. Both Dawns do that,
yes.
Frankly.
Plitzawhite for South Dakota, and South Dakota has trouble finding people who want to come play them, or play them period, and frankly, I don't blame them. Because they seem to get between South Dakota State, you got North Dakota State, you can throw that in, not just in women's basketball, but they always seem to come up with upsets every year.
Well, Don Plitzawhite said to us yesterday, I'm really hoping that teams will overlook us. And I just interrupted her and I said, I'm sorry, Coach, that's not going to happen. Not anymore. Your team is too good and it's done too well on the national stage.
Yeah, the secret is certainly a secret no more. Mihir, gosh, gets that basket.
Mihir is here to stay, so yes. We'll get it down. Littleton is playing as well as I've seen her throughout her career. She looks to be in the best shape. Yeah. She's quick off the bounce. So much known as that outside scoring threat for them, now can do it all.
National Player of the Year on the men's side, Drew Timme, and #1 recruit in the nation, Chet Holmgren, leading the Zags in a matchup against Texas. That's a top 5 matchup in men's basketball in Spokane. That's tonight, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on ESPN2 and the app. Not too far away. Terrific matchups in this very first week of college basketball, both on the men's and the women's side. Earlier today in this building, Arizona upset #6 Louisville in overtime. A lot of new pieces. Adia Barnes and Jeff Walls both trying to figure some things out with superstars moving on to the pros after last year.
Well, I think for both those ball clubs, both their fans, don't worry about what today looked like, because those teams are only going to get better.
Yeah, speaking of March, and we asked Dawn Staley why, this is the 3rd year in a row that they've played South Dakota, and she's talked about that, wanting to play teams that play different styles, and South Dakota is either a one out, a 1 in 4 out or a 5 out team, and they want to be able to see all these different things before they get out of the SEC, before they get to the one and done matchups in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I love the fact, and this is probably the greatest compliment to South Dakota, is that Don Staley said we had to prep for it before this week, and that's a true compliment.
Don Plitzowite said the same thing about South Carolina. That's a 3 buried by Bree Hall, another one of the McDonald All-American freshmen on this team.
Well, South Dakota had their practice guys yesterday, and I said to you, Pam, I said their practice guys are not as quick as South Carolina's guards. And so it's one thing to prep for South Carolina, it's another thing to see it live.
Shervin fouled as she was boxing out Cardoso. Cardoso goes out. Now Dawn Staley starting to go to her bench.
I think they got Bree Hall